Hi everyone, my name is Cole. Welcome to Lost Emerald, where we talk about all things tabletop role-playing games, which includes character building, world building, and some storytelling advice. We do focus primarily on Pathfinder 2nd Edition. That doesn't mean that some of these tips and tricks can't translate to other systems as well. It's just that Pathfinder is the one that I'm most familiar with. But whether you're an experienced player or an absolute beginner, I do hope that some of these things that we discuss on the channel can help improve your experience at the table. I've been playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition since it was released. I did play Pathfinder 1st Edition as well. Being a beginner GM is both exciting and overwhelming. When I first stepped in the role, I was really excited because I wanted to share this world that I had been working on with my friends. Trust me, every GM makes mistakes. It is more common for beginners, obviously, but every GM makes mistakes. I think that some of the ones that I ran into are avoidable. You just have to have the right mindset and approach. I will share some beginner GM mistakes that I ran into. I'll talk about how to potentially avoid them, and we can help get your players returning for some more sessions. I think a lot of GMs fall into this trap of over planning. It's completely natural for you to want things to go perfectly, especially when you're playing with your friends. You put a ton of time into planning this and you want to make sure that they have a great time. This can lead to some frustration when your players inevitably take the story in a different direction. Instead of trying to focus on scripting every single moment, focus on a few key scenes and objectives that you want to hit during the session. Prepare your NPCs' motivations, where they'll be, and maybe a few potential outcomes based on your players' actions, but leave room for your players to be creative. Remember, this is a collaborative storytelling experience between you and the players. Remain flexible and ready to adapt. Your players' decisions will help them feel as though they're making an impact on the world that you've laid before them. Any GM will tell you that you're gonna come across a time where you prepare stuff and the players won't see it during that session, or potentially ever, and that's okay. For example, I recently ran a session where I had planned out this intricate chase scene where the players would have to make skill checks and make some difficult decisions. The players decided not to interact with that at all, so I had to toss away those notes and improvise. That ended up being one of the best sessions that we've had in this campaign so far, and I think that, if they don't interact with that story could have gone in a completely different direction. Embracing this kind of improvisation can lead to some of the most memorable moments in your campaign. Another common mistake is neglecting player agency, which is critical in tabletop role-playing games. Similar to what I was talking about in the previous section, when a GM takes too much control over how a story unfolds, it can leave the players feeling as though the decisions that they make don't matter. You may have heard of a term called railroading, and it's definitely one that you're going to want to avoid. Instead, focus on telling a story together. Encourage the other people at your table to contribute to the narrative by asking open-ended questions and being receptive to their ideas. This doesn't mean that you have to abandon the plot, but just be willing to adjust it based on your players' actions. I was in a game where the GM wanted to tell this long, epic story that he'd written. Every decision that we made as players was met with resistance as the GM guided us towards what he deemed was the correct decision. That campaign eventually ended with the GM getting upset enough to throw 50 wolves at us. Yes, it was actually 50, until we TPK'd. Don't be that rigid. It wasn't fun for the GM, it wasn't fun for us as players, and ultimately it ruined what could have been a really cool and interesting world setting that he brought together. Some of the best moments that you have at a table are going to be with a GM who allows players to help tell the story. That's what this game's all about. Balancing encounters is a skill that takes time to develop, but it's crucial to maintaining the flow of your game. If your encounters are too easy, then you risk your players getting bored. If your encounters are too difficult, well, then you could cause frustration and you risk ending your campaign with a total party kill or a TPK. One thing I've learned is to tailor encounters to your players' abilities and not just their level. Consider their strengths and weaknesses and design encounters that challenge them without overwhelming them. Adjusting enemy numbers, adding environmental hazards, or giving enemies tactical weaknesses can help create a balanced encounter. For instance, let's say you had an encounter where you had 7 enemies that were going to be showing up throughout the course of the fight. Still, the players were struggling with 4 that you already have out. In this case, you can adjust the battle so that enemies show up at a slower rate, or some don't show up at all. If the players get through the first 4 that you have out there, maybe you could have them all roll perception to determine whether or not they're still in danger. This would keep the tension high without making it feel unfair. This next one is geared more towards people who homebrew or adjust the rules, but inconsistent rule enforcement can create confusion and frustration with your players. It's important that you're consistent with how you apply the rules. If the players feel like the rules are arbitrary or they change from session to session, then it can detract from their experience. One easy strategy is to create a cheat sheet that you put on your GM screen that just lays out all of the commonly referenced rules or those that you've changed or adjusted. This will help you stay consistent and make quick decisions when needed, as well as keeping your players immersed in the game. If you do decide to implement house rules, be transparent about them and make sure that everyone is on the same page. For example, let's say that you've been really lenient on encumbrance rules in the past, but all of a sudden you decide to enforce them strictly. That can catch players off guard. You should communicate any changes with the players and give them time to adjust. Consistency in how you apply the rules will help maintain the game's integrity and help everyone stay engaged. Avoiding these common mistakes can significantly improve your experience as a GM and help make your players' experience at the table more enjoyable. By planning flexibly, respecting player agency, balancing encounters, and maintaining consistent rules, you can create sessions that are not only more fun, but also more memorable. Remember, every single GM makes mistakes. It's part of the journey. One thing that we can do to help ourselves is to recognize these mistakes and try to improve. Finally, I'd love to hear about your experience as a GM. Did you face any of the similar challenges that I have? And if you have, how did you handle those? Let me know in the comments, or if you dealt with other issues that I didn't cover here today, let me know about those too. I'm trying to learn and get better. I've only been doing this for a couple of months. If you found this video helpful, you can help me out by clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel for more tabletop role-playing content. If nothing else, it was really fun sharing some of these experiences that I've had with you today, and thank you so much for watching the video, and we'll see you next time.